Avi Shalev spent decades studying Palestinian culture as an intelligence officer in the Israeli military. He also became the only Jewish student to graduate from an Arab Islamic college. His unique experience led him to some eye-opening conclusions as to why Israel missed warning signs leading up to October 7th. Chris Mitchell has more from Jerusalem.
For 24 years in Israel's military intelligence, Lieutenant Colonel Avi Shalev closely observed the daily life of Palestinian society. After retiring, Shalev continued his education by enrolling in an Arab Islamic college.
I learned how much I don't know about our neighbors.
Shalev wrote about the experience in a diary which he published as the only Jew in the room.
I was their first Jewish student ever to have registered to the college.
Shalev says this is in stark contrast with Arab Israelis.
Thousands of Arab Israelis study in Israeli universities in Hebrew.
His time there helped Shalev conclude that while Israel's intelligence agency had plenty of high-tech information, they lacked understanding.
When you come to assess your neighbors, okay, you need a lot of intel, but you also have to understand and assess this intel. And if you don't understand the mentality, the culture, the language, the religion, the narrative, the history of your neighbors, you'll find it very difficult to actually understand the intelligence that you have.
He believes Israel completely misread Hamas.
We know today that the IDF had the plan of 7th of October. It got many warning signs and it misread them. And you know, the head of intelligence, Khalifa, said that even if somebody had told him on the 6th of October that this is going to happen, he says, I would have dismissed him.
Shalev says instead of hiding its intent, Hamas broadcasted it on Palestinian television.
2 years prior to the attack, Hamas published a TV series
called The Fist of the Free. It was viewed by millions of Arabs.
And on the 30th episode is the 7th of October. It's the attack on Israel. In May 2022, Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, saying this is exactly what we are going to do, and we're going to realize everything that you saw on this TV series in reality.
The program portrayed Palestinians working with Israelis as traitors.
Anybody who's invested doing business and having relations with Jews is a real villain.
And yet, Israel continued to increase work permits for Gazans, hoping jobs and money would result in peace. Instead of gratitude, Shalev says, Hamas showed contempt.
We hate doing business with the Jews. We hate being related to them. We hate sending our kids to their hospitals.
Before October 7th, 17,000 work permits had been issued to Gazans to work in Israel. Shalev says Israel's intelligence never dreamed the workers would want to jeopardize this opportunity.
They would never go and sacrifice everything they have because that doesn't make sense in our world. But Palestinians in Gaza, especially Hamas, was not thinking like that. It had a vision. It was thinking in religious, Islamic narratives.
Terrorists then targeted those Israelis most committed to making peace with Arabs.
Hamas attacked the most left-wing, liberal, progressive communities on the border who really went out of their way to assist Gazans.
He sees the heart of this failure being a cultural collision.
Israel is a far more modern society, individualistic society, where the locus of control is internal. So we internalize, we in our mind, we think that we can change the world and we can be effective. The Arab is a very traditional, religious, Islamic, tribal society. They take their clue from the group. They're not analyzing the situation, so it doesn't really matter for them if it's true or false. If the context is favorable for the group, they're with it, and they're completely identified with the group policy or idea.
Shalev warns that unless Israel can bridge this cultural chasm, it will remain vulnerable.
I think following the 7th of October, Israel will change, especially in the military and the intelligence community, the way it trains its cadets, its officers, because we really need to understand Arabs better, understand the way they're thinking and they're seeing us.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, in light of current headlines, I hope that message gets all the way to the State Department and to President Trump, that you have to understand the ideology here. And it is a religious ideology. It's a jihadist ideology, that it is better for us to die in jihad than it is to die peacefully in our beds surrounded by our loved ones. They yearn for this, and they yearn for this struggle to take back Israel and to take Jerusalem. And when they say that Israel is the little Satan and the United States is the great Satan, we should believe them. And that has been preached for decades in the Middle East. And to somehow think that a trade deal is going to change that, or personal relationships is going to change that, you're falling into the same trap that somehow or other individuals in that society have freedom of conscience and freedoms that Americans just sort of take for granted. No, they live in a completely different environment, a completely different thought process. So I hope we wake up to that, because the consequences are dire, as we saw in Israel for October 7th. Absolutely dire what happened. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, absolutely dire. If there's a jihadist state created in Syria, absolutely dire. These are world-changing events, and we need to be aware of what we're dealing with.